and welcome to Mrs. Hoover's art class. Today we are going to make some Notan art. Notan is a Japanese word that actually means light and dark balance. So we're going to make some artwork using light and dark. Notan uses light and dark shapes to create a design. Here's an example of Notan art. In this Notan, the shapes were cut out and they were flipped over. So you can see here in this design right here, this shape right here was cut out of this black square and then it was flipped over. So we have two shapes. We have this shape that was cut out and then we have the space that was left over by the shape. So we have the dark and the light. This is actually called the positive shape. And then this shape that was left over by what we cut out is called the negative shape. Artists look at both positive shapes and negative shapes when they create their art. So we're going to create some Notan, and I want to show you some other examples of Notan art. Notan, you are going to need a piece of white paper 9 by 12, a piece of 9 by 12 black paper, some scissors, and a glue stick. So in order to create this Notan, we need to create a smaller piece of black paper that we will use to cut out our designs. This is going to be our large paper that we will put our design on, and then this black paper needs to be a quarter or 1/4 of this size. In order to do that, we will fold this in half, line it up, and make a crease. Then we can cut on the fold line. Then we will take one of these pieces and fold it in half again. This gives us 1/4 of the size of the original paper. Okay, so we are going to make a Notan design from this paper here. There are two things you need to remember when cutting your designs. First, don't cut past the middle of the paper. Second rule, whatever side you start to cut on, that's the side you finish the cut on. So if you start cutting on the bottom, you cut into the paper, make your shape, and finish cutting out the bottom. Let me demonstrate that. I will make a random shape here. I will start cutting on the bottom. I'm cutting in, let me make just a zigzag pattern. I'm cutting across like this, and now I'm going to come back out this bottom side of the paper. I'm not going to cut here across the corner or go out the top. I'm not going to go beyond the center. I'm going to go right back down to the bottom of the paper. So here's my first cut. Now I want you to make one cut on your paper, any kind of shape at all. It doesn't have to look like mine. Just cut a shape. And you start on one side, cut into the paper, and come back out the other side. It can be any shape that you want. You can look back at some of the other Notans and get ideas from these patterns. It can be a curvy shape, it can be a circle, whatever you want. So just cut one shape out. Now when I have my shape cut out, it's just like a puzzle piece. You put it back in its place. I know I'm not doing it right if it doesn't fit. So I put my shape back in just like a puzzle. So in order to make a Notan, I'm going to flip it over. So I'm going to lift it up. It's like opening up a door, or I'm turning the page of a book. And I turn it over. I also want to be sure that I line up this bottom line. I don't want it to be crooked or a different shape. I want it to be lined up so it goes right across here. So here's my first shape for my Notan. The more shapes that you cut out of your black paper, the prettier your design will look. I usually tell my students that if they do at least 10 shapes, that will look really nice. And you can do a shape within a shape. So let me show you how to do that. A shape within a shape is really fun to do. This is a shape within a shape. It looks complicated, but it's actually very easy. So I'm going to start on this side over here. I'm going to leave this little piece. The very last thing I'm going to do is glue things down. I'm not ready to glue yet. I'm going to cut all my shapes out first. I'm just going to do a triangle shape. So here's my first shape, and I'm going to lay it down like that. Now I'm going to cut a second shape out of this shape. So I'm going to start on the left-hand side. I always start on the same side, and I'm going to cut another shape out of this. I think I'm going to cut a curved shape this time. I'm going to keep this together and I put it back. I want to be careful to put it back the right way because you can see that it doesn't fit if I turn it different directions. And this way it doesn't fit either. I need to be sure I put it exactly like I cut it out, and then I'm going to fit my other shape inside. So I put my puzzle back together, and then I open it up. I'm going to take this first piece that I cut, and I'm going to flip it over and lay it down here, lining it up. And then the second piece that I cut out, I'm going to leave it. Isn't that cool? I love doing a shape within a shape. I could cut a square out here, so I could cut out a square. So here it is cut. I put it together, put it back, and then I lift the first cut out, flip it over, line it up, and leave the second piece there. I can even do a shape inside a shape inside a shape. I can cut something out on this side. I have to always use the same side and flip it back over the other way. So why don't I do that? I will cut a shape here on this side and flip it back the other way. So there's my triangle. I think I'll cut a triangle out. I'm going to flip it back the other way. It's hard to do when they're tiny. So line them all up. And there, a shape within a shape within a shape. So the very last thing I will do after I cut all my shapes out of all my sides is to glue them down. So this is what you need to do right now. Cut all of your shapes out, and I'm going to do the same thing, and then I'll show you how to glue them down. Okay, I think I'm ready to glue things down. So right now I'm going to put my rectangle in the middle of the paper. You wouldn't have to do that. You could tilt your rectangle and glue things down. That's fine. I'm going to glue mine in the middle, but you do it however you'd like to. I'm going to lay everything down in the right position. Then I will start gluing. I'm going to glue my large piece first. I'm going to glue this piece down first. And the way I want you to do that is I want you to get a gluing paper. What I mean by that is a separate piece of paper that you can actually do your gluing on, so you won't get the extra glue on your white paper. Okay, so now I have my paper here that I'm going to use to glue things. So I'm going to take my large piece of paper and I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to put glue on it, being very careful not to tear it. So I've got my glue stick and I'm going to put glue on this. So I'm ready to glue my large piece of paper in the middle of my white paper. So I'm going to lay it down right like that and press it down. Being careful. Okay, so now I'm going to put my pieces back into this black paper and just kind of like putting a puzzle together, just like when you were in kindergarten. My pieces are back together and I'm ready to flip them over and start gluing. So I'm going to take my piece, flip it over, and then I'll come over here, flip it back over the other side and put some glue on it. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm gluing the right side and I want it to line up along the edge there. Oh, I made a mistake. See how I put glue on the front side? Well, I'm just going to wipe that off, and when it dries, it'll be okay. I'm going to put glue on the correct side. And then when it dries, it won't show very much. You have to let that dry a little bit. Oops, line it up. Finished with my Notan design. So remember, these shapes here, these are the positive shapes, and then the spaces that were left by those shapes are called the negative shapes. And Notan is a design of positive and negative, or dark and light designs. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed creating a piece of Notan Japanese art. I would love to see your artwork. So if you want to, you can email it to me at mrshooversartclass@gmail.com. And remember, every day is a great day to make art. Bye!